Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank Chikwe and Ike for organizing this event. As someone who's organized lots of these events, I appreciate the amount of effort that goes into this, so thank you very much for offering us this platform. As you've heard, when I came here, I thought I needed to get in touch with like-minded professionals like myself, and that's where the idea of setting up the networking for professionals came from. And from that, we organize various meetings where we invite speakers from different parts, whether they are politicians or business people, just to come and share their ideas, very much the same in this way. And one of the things that I want to talk about that came up was the idea of promoting investment in Africa. A lot of the times, people have seen this as something that government should do, but we felt to something that, as individuals, we need to take responsibility for it. So when Chikwe asked me to talk about on the theme of entrepreneurship and change, I thought actually that's one of the key things that's coming through actually from all the people who've been speaking here, is that as entrepreneurs, we are making a change in Africa. And an entrepreneur to me is someone who sees a gap in the market and looks to fill it through a product or a service. One of the ideas that I want to share with you today is one that I think a lady called Dambisa Moyo has written a book on called Dead Aid, and where she says that actually in Africa they should stop aid completely. And it seems a radical comment that she's made, but I think I'm very much in support of that. And I'll illustrate with a metaphor. It's just my view on this. When I was young, and probably yourselves as well, if I didn't finish eating my food, my mom would tell me, you know, there are people who are starving in Ethiopia, you know, you should definitely finish this. And that would drive me into guilt to finishing that food. But do you know, still today, Ethiopia is struggling with famine. Yet there's so much aid that is going in there. Why isn't it changing? I cannot give an economic or scientific answer to that, but my view is that if I placed myself as an entrepreneur in this environment of famine, and I saw what was going on, actually there is an opportunity here. I could grow some food, or I could import some food from somewhere else and provide it to these people who actually really need it. But if I tried to do that, I think I'd be faced with a multitude of problems. But I'll just talk about two. One is that, would the people that I'm trying to provide this food to be able to afford it? Probably not. They might not be able to afford the food that I'm trying to provide to them. So that straight away kills my entrepreneurship idea. Secondly, it's not a level playing field. We have international bodies that are providing food in this area. So if you imagine the economic activity that's going on there, you wake up in the morning, you queue for food, you receive the food, which is very well branded as aid coming from the West, and you go home and cook it. So that kills any opportunity for any entrepreneur to try and provide and bridge that gap in that market. You can't. But the market is there because there are farmers in the West who are growing this food, packing it, shipping it, airlifting it. All the way, there's thousands, actually hundreds of thousands, I bet, who are employed gainfully to support that famine. But then that is not contributing anything to the Ethiopian economy. So what I'm saying is that I think we need to rethink the role of aid and pay more attention to entrepreneurship and investment. So I don't want to take too much time, but some of the opportunities I think we need to think about is that there's new thinking that's coming across. In the 60s, when a lot of the governments or countries in Africa were getting independence, there was people became quite skeptical about free trade and investment. And I think that's where this issue came up obviously, because of the way the West had come to Africa and colonized Africa, so Africans were very fearful of trading with the West. So that I think is where it all stemmed from. But now this is changing, and countries are beginning to realize a lot more and more that it's important to trade and engage in the world economy. But I just looked up as I was preparing for this speech some of the statistics, and I was shocked to look at how much Africa accounts for global exports. So if you put all the exports, I thought, oh, maybe Africa might account, certainly not 50%, maybe 40%, but really it's only 5% of exports. That's our contribution to exports. If we look at foreign direct investment, inflows of money coming into different countries, Africa only accounts for 2.5%. Well, and those foreign direct investment, majority of them in the past have been in the form of aid. But something is changing as well. There is people in the diaspora are sending money back home in remittances, and that in 2004, I think 2004, 2003, that has exceeded the amount of money that aid is being provided. So people like you and me who send money back home and just say, here's some money for your pocket money for your family, that amount of money is a lot more than the aid that governments are providing. And what I'm saying is that is actually making a bigger difference, because it's going straight into someone's pocket, and they're able to transact in a market, which comes back to the point that I raised in my narrative about, can they afford it? When you put money into people's pockets, they can afford it, and they become a market, so to say, and that gives them more power. Instead of begging for aid, when you have money in your pocket, you are a customer, and people treat you differently than if you're a beggar. And I think if we can do that a lot more to everybody, imagine if everyone in Africa had money in their pockets to buy goods and services. The respect that we keep asking for in the world will come naturally. People will listen. People will be struggling to provide services and products, as opposed to seeing as people, that we can just provide aid to. Another idea that's coming through is one by a man called Prahalad, who wrote The Fortune of the Bottom Pyramid. So what he is arguing is that traditionally people have looked and said, we need to provide goods and services to the rich West. But he's saying actually there's at the bottom billion, the very poorest of the poorest. Actually that's a big market, and if you can find ways to provide services to them, that makes a big difference. So I'll give just two quick examples of companies that have taken that in Kenya, which is where I'm from. There's Equity Bank, which is a bank that started innovatively providing loans to farmers in the villages. Traditionally, these people were unbanked. They could not receive a loan, because if they wanted to get a loan, they have to have security or collateral that the bank can hold on to, and they didn't have any, so they're completely out of the system. But Equity came up with the idea that they could take, if they have a cow, that is collateral, and they have milk, so that is cash flow. So actually they can bank them, and they can give them a loan, and they, as they get milk, as they sell their milk from their farms, then they can pay off the loan. So this is completely thinking of it in a different way. And they went through to the villages. These are not, they didn't start in the big towns. They started in the small villages. And now this is a bank that is already challenging Barclays and Standard in Kenya. When Standard and Barclays were putting minimum deposit level, saying to open an account you have to have a minimum deposit level. They've had to switch that, because Equity is opening a bank with no amount of money. You don't even need money to have an account. You can just open it. The other innovation coming from Kenya, it also says M-Pesa. I don't know if you've heard about M-Pesa, whereby you can transfer money through a mobile phone. So just like texting money, you can transfer money, credit through using the phone. So these are thinking of it completely differently. These are technologies that and ideas that are relevant to Africa. So there is a market. So instead of seeing Africa as as a place where, you know, there's no market and there's no opportunity for providing any goods or services, I think there is a market. You just have to think differently. So my final point is, I think we need to start with ourselves. Whether we're in the diaspora or whether we are back at home, I think if we invest, buy, or do any business with Africa, we are actually making a difference. Because when you buy that product, when you invest, whether it's in the stock market or whether it's in property or whichever area you choose to invest, you're actually putting people into employment, you're actually putting money into people's pockets, and that empowers people and gives people a voice within the world stage. So my plea to you is, let's find ways. I'm impressed by the innovative ideas that you're saying are coming out from all the women in Africa. If we can get those into the market, get them, those people buying and buying those products, I would like to see this flavored porridge, I don't know, ugi. Yeah, you know, in supermarkets. I'd like to see it in Tesco. You know, that would be amazing. And I think that's where we need, but I think, coming back to where we've come from the way the West engaged us initially, Africa and money don't go together. You know, it's almost like people don't want to talk about it that way. But we need to think about it that way. If we could get that product in Tesco, trust me, those women would be visible because they would be millionaires. You know, and it's exactly the same product. There's nothing huge about Weetabix. You know, it's just someone has put a business hat on it and said, I need to get this to market, I need to push it into the market, and we need to do that. So let's start with ourselves. Let's do whatever it is that needs to be done to get away from the idea that someone is going to come out from somewhere to help us, to give us aid, or to give us opportunities. The opportunities are right in front of us. We are a market ourselves. There's a huge population in Africa. That's a market. If we could serve that market, turn it into a vibrant market, then we would get the respect that we so keenly seek. That's all for me for now. Thank you very much.